All worlds begin with Demon Slayer. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Bai Yu returns. The coward is not dead. I heard that you fainted when you saw the ghost. In the end, you had to be carried on someone's back. You are really a burden. At this time, a boy who disliked the cowardly Agatsuma Zenitsu jumped out and mocked Agatsuma Zenitsu. Agatsuma Zenitsu was not angry at the mockery of others, but said very calmly, "Aren't you just like the cowards, shrinking in the safe zone marked by Bai Yu Sr.? If there was no Bai Yu Sr., you would all be dead. Stinky boy, come and fight, if you have the guts." The boy who mocked Agatsuma Zenitsu was immediately annoyed after hearing what Agatsuma Zenitsu said. "Coward, are you itching for trouble? Damn. So arrogant. Don't stop me, I will beat him to a pulp." Many boys also jumped out suddenly because of Agatsuma Zenitsu's words. Immediately, 5 or 6 boys who were good at face surrounded Agatsuma Zenitsu. Seeing this, Zenitsu Agatsuma immediately shrank behind Tanjiro and then asked Tanjiro for help. "Tanjiro, these guys actually want to beat people up. You can't just ignore it." Zenitsu is right. You have no right to talk about him. Murata Shinji stood up and spoke for Zenitsu Agatsuma. Tanjiro saw that the situation was a little out of control, so he also stood up and said, "Are you only good at bullying the weak? If you are so good at fighting, go fight the ghost." Tanjiro's words immediately made those thorny boys lose their temper. Of course, the reason why the boys were afraid was not Tanjiro himself, but Bai Yu. Because Tanjiro and Bai Yu were from the same school, they naturally did not dare to not give Tanjiro face. Wow. It's quite lively. At this time, Bai Yu's voice rang out. Everyone looked over and saw Bai Yu, who appeared here at some point, walking towards Tanjiro and others. When those thorny boys saw Bai Yu coming over, they couldn't help but step back in fear. "Senior Bai Yu." Tanjiro called Bai Yu happily. After so many days, Bai Yu finally appeared. When Zenitsu Agatsuma saw Bai Yu appear, he hugged Bai Yu's thigh and said, "Senior Bai Yu, you are finally back. If you don't come back, they will beat me." Tanjiro and Shinji, "I know, you can let me go," Bai Yu said to Zenitsu Agatsuma lightly. As soon as Bai Yu spoke, Zenitsu Agatsuma quickly let go of Bai Yu and then stood behind Bai Yu and made faces at those thorny boys. Those thorny boys saw Zenitsu Agatsuma's smug look and they were so angry. But the great god Bai Yu was right in front of them and they really didn't dare to act rashly. "It seems that you guys have recovered well and actually want to fight. Do you want me to find a few ghosts for you to practice?" Bai Yu looked at the thorny boys and said. Hearing this, the thorny boys immediately refused awkwardly. "Senior Bai Yu, you're joking. I'm still injured and haven't fully recovered, so I won't bother you." Yes, my leg is not very strong yet, so I'll let it go." Yes, we haven't fully recovered yet. Then why don't you get back and stay here?" Suddenly, Bai Yu roared, scaring those rebellious young men so much that they finally retreated back into the crowd in frustration. Chapter 52 Past the selection. With Bai Yu present, the out-of-control situation was under control at once, and no teenager dared to jump out and make trouble again. "Senior Bai Yu, have all the ghosts been killed?" Tanjiro did not dwell on what happened just now, but asked Bai Yu curiously. Bai Yu nodded and said only 3 words lightly, "Killed them all." Before the sun rose, Bai Yu finally killed the last ghost on Fujiki Mountain within 4 days and received the reward for completing the task. Wood breathing and the ability of the Devil Devourer upgraded to D level. Bai Yu is still studying wood breathing. As for the ability of the D level Devil Devourer, it allows Bai Yu to devour the ghost with blood demon arts and gain the ability to use the blood demon arts. However, it must be used in the demon god state and cannot be used normally. The ghost with blood demon arts are no longer at the same level as the ghost killed by Bai Yu in Fujiki Mountain and are more advanced ghosts. Blood demon art is a skill evolved from demon. These skills are of various types and each demon has different blood demon art. Because Bai Yu has not come into contact with many demon, he does not know much about blood demon art. After that, Bai Yu did not choose to stay with these teenagers, but took Tanjiro and others to find a relatively quiet place as their foothold. Senior Bai Yu, the demons are all killed. What should we do next? Tanjiro asked Bai Yu again after sitting down. Wait until the time is up and complete the selection. Bai Yu said lightly. The next few days were extremely leisurely days. During this period, Murata Shinji, who was the weakest, was responsible for the preparation of food. Because Tanjiro had nothing to do, he practiced water breathing over and over again. When he encountered something he did not understand, Tanjiro would ask Bai Yu for advice. In addition to guiding Tanjiro, Bai Yu was quietly studying wood breathing. Because the system only rewarded the wood breathing method, Bai Yu did not know whether the wood breathing method had its own moves like water breathing. Time flies, and 7 days have passed. When the morning sun just rose, Bai Yu led Tanjiro and others down the mountain. At this time, many people had gathered at the foot of the mountain. Most of them passed the selection by chance thanks to Bai Yu. However, Bai Yu did not have any idea about this. He just wanted to complete the task. Seeing Bai Yu appear, the teenagers who were saved by Bai Yu all stepped aside in awe. Bai Yu's arrival was like the arrival of a god. Tanjiro, who looked around, saw the only girl who came to participate in the selection. When he saw her, Tanjiro couldn't help but feel relieved. It turned out that she was not killed. Bai Yu soon saw the lolly girl and couldn't help but think in his heart, this guy's not hiding. I have walked all over Tenxi Mountain, but I can't see her. This time, Bai Yu did not go up to chat again. Welcome back. As the tender voice sounded, the two big-eyed little lolly walked out from under the wisteria tree. Two big-eyed little lolly walked in front of the crowd and continued. Congratulations everyone, you passed the selection safely. Task, pass the Demon Slayer core selection. Completed. As the two big-eyed little lolly announced, the broadcast of the superdimensional crossing system sounded in Bai Yu's mind. Chapter 53, The Angry Coxcomb Boy. Rewards for completing the mission. One-time reversal item. Obtain the water-breathing 10-form sword technique. Reaching the pinnacle. Note, because the host has reached a certain level of mastery of the water-breathing 10-form, the reward is upgraded, and the level of the water-breathing 10-form is upgraded to the pinnacle. The attack damage caused to ghosts in this state is increased by 20%. The system broadcast of the reward distribution sounded in Bai Yu's mind. What Bai Yu didn't expect was that the reward was actually upgraded. Now, because of the upgrade of the realm of his water-breathing 10 form, he has obtained a 20% damage bonus to ghosts. The 20% damage bonus to ghosts will allow Bai Yu to kill ghosts more easily than others. As for the time reversal item, Bai Yu knew that this thing was a heaven-defying thing. Since the system gave him this reward, it means that this thing can play a key role in the future. This time reversal item looks like an hourglass object, which is stored in the dimensional storage grid by the system. However, this time reversal tool cannot reverse the time of the entire world, but can only reverse the time within a range of 1000 meters around the user, and the user is not affected by the reversal. Therefore, this time reversal tool still has certain limitations. Stop talking nonsense. What should I do next? Where is my knife? At this time, a young man with a coxcomb head who had shaved all the hair on both sides of his head, leaving only the middle part, said impatiently. This young man with a coxcomb head had a fierce look on his face, and a very obvious scar under his right eye made him even more fierce. Bai Yu's attention was attracted by the impatient words of this young man. After a quick look, Bai Yu knew that this guy was not one of the young men he had rescued. First, we will send the uniforms of the Demon Slayer Corps to you. Now we need you to cooperate with us to measure your body size, and then engrave the class of the Demon Slayer Corps. There are 4 levels in total. B, C, D. Now you are the lowest level D. The two big-eyed little lolly continued to speak one by one. I'm asking you, where is my knife? The young man with the coxcomb head became even more impatient. The two big-eyed little girls didn't pay too much attention to the coxcomb head boy, but continued what they had to say. Today, you can choose the jade steel for making swords, but it will take 10 to 15 days until the swords are forged. Until then, The white-haired big-eyed little girl clapped her hands. Then, many crows flew out from under the wisteria tree. These crows circled in the sky for a long time, and then each landed on the shoulders of the master's HOs. From now on, the crow will follow you. The crow is mainly used for communication. All news will be delivered to you by the crow in the future. The two big-eyed little girls continued. Bai Yu looked at the crow standing on his shoulder, which was extremely quiet and well behaved, and couldn't help but reach out and touch it. Agatsuma Zenitsu looked at the little sparrow on his shoulder, and then said in a daze, "Crow? Isn't this a sparrow? Don't be ridiculous." At this time, the coxcomb boy became completely impatient and drove away his crow directly, and then walked towards the two big-eyed little lolly with some anger. "Crows don't matter. I just want my sword. The one used by the Demon Slayer Corps, which can change color." The coxcomb boy said angrily, and then grabbed the hair of the white-haired big-eyed little lolly, and pulled it hard. The white-haired big-eyed little lolly did not have any emotional fluctuations, and let the coxcomb boy pull her hair like a wooden man. Chapter 54 I'm a boy. Mission: help Yubuayashiki Yoshia's little daughter. Mission completion reward: win the heart of Yubuayashiki Yoshia's little daughter. Mission failure penalty: the host will be disliked by all women. At this time, the broadcast of the superdimensional crossing system sounded again. After receiving this task, Bai Yu did not hesitate, and flashed in front of the coxcomb boy. Bai Yu was not unacceptable to child brides. Bai Yu grabbed the coxcomb boy's wrist, and broke it without any hesitation. The coxcomb boy immediately let go, and wailed because of the broken wrist. Bai Yu did not look at the coxcomb boy for a second, but focused his attention on the white-haired and big-eyed little lolly. Bai Yu stretched out his hand, and stroked the messy hair of the white-haired and big-eyed little lolly, and then said tenderly, "When you grow up, I will let you become my woman." Bai Yu's tender voice said extremely domineering words, and the white-haired and big-eyed little lolly looked at Bai Yu and her eyes couldn't help but flash. Mission accomplished. Host successfully won the heart of Yubuayashiki Yoya's little daughter. At this time, the system broadcast sounded in Bai Yu's mind again. Tanjiro thought Bai Yu was just helping him out, but he didn't expect that he would confess to her in the end. He really didn't know what to say. She's still a child. It will be more than 10 years later, when she grows up. By then, you will have become a big man who picks your toes. The little lolly with white hair and big eyes nodded to Bai Yu, as if she agreed to Bai Yu. The little lolly with black hair and big eyes looked at Bai Yu and her sister quietly, and didn't say much. Seeing this, everyone was envious and jealous. Unexpectedly, Bai Yu really won the heart of a little lolly in the end. Agatsuma Zenitsu was very envious of Bai Yu, and he had an obsession with finding a girl to marry, so he followed Bai Yu, and came to another little lolita with black hair and big eyes and confessed, "When you grow up, I will make you my woman like senior Bai Yu. Marry me. I really like you." Everyone sneered and made jokes when they saw Agatsuma Zenitsu like this. Those voices seemed to be telling Agatsuma Zenitsu that he was just a coward and wanted to learn from the great Bai Yu. He really overestimated his own abilities. The little lolita with black hair and big eyes did not show any emotional changes when Agatsuma Zenitsu confessed to her. She still looked at Agatsuma Zenitsu quietly like a puppet. Just when Agatsuma Zenitsu was looking forward to her answer, the black-haired, big-eyed little lolita said calmly, "I'm a boy. I can't be your woman. I'm a boy. I can't be your woman. I'm a boy. I can't be your woman." This sentence was repeated over and over in Agatsuma Zenitsu's mind, and Agatsuma Zenitsu's spiritual world was like being struck by a bolt from the blue. How is this possible? Agatsuma Zenitsu was almost stimulated to vomit blood. Agatsuma Zenitsu, who couldn't accept this fact, immediately returned to Tanjiro and mirrored to Shinji, and then cried, "Tanjiro, Shinji, I won't live anymore." 555 That guy is actually a boy. Tanjiro. Everyone was also shocked by the words of the black-haired big-eyed little lolita. Who would have thought that such a cute child, who was still wearing a female kimono, was not a girl, but a boy? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, Fusagor Genia. Hahaha, this coward. He actually confessed to a boy. It's so funny. Who knows? What if it's just a reason for others to reject the coward? The coward actually likes boys. Haha, all of a sudden, the boys around laughed at Agatsuma Zenitsu. Agatsuma Zenitsu didn't care about the comments of these people. Instead, when he heard others say that he might have said that because he was rejected, he became excited again. No, I'm going to take off his pants to verify it. I hate people lying to me the most. Agatsuma Zenitsu was suddenly excited and wanted to take off the pants of the black-haired, cute, big-eyed little boy in women's clothing. Seeing this, Tanjiro and Mirata Shinji immediately stopped Agatsuma Zenitsu. Now is not the time to let Agatsuma Zenitsu fool around. Zenitsu, stop fooling around. Tanjiro, don't stop me, I must see if he is a boy. Bai Yu smiled bitterly in his heart. This Agatsuma Zenitsu is really like an anime. However, it seems that things have begun to deviate from the original route. Bai Yu took off his mask to ward off disasters, and then put it on the face of the little white-haired and big-eyed Lolita, and finally said, "This is the token of love I gave you, you must keep it well." Bai Yu was not worried that the little white-haired and big-eyed Lolita in front of him was a boy, because the system's description would definitely not be wrong. However, Bai Yu did not expect that the black-haired one would actually be a boy. If what the black-haired boy said was true, then the brother and sister were the same except for their different genders. "Remember my name is Bai Yu." Bai Yu continued to say to the little white-haired and big-eyed Lolita, "Yubuayashiki Kiko." The little white-haired and big-eyed Lolita named Yubuayashiki Kiko looked at Bai Yu's delicate appearance and told Bai Yu her name. The coxcomb-haired boy saw that Bai Yu hurt himself just to pick up girls, and he couldn't help but be furious. "You bastard, damn it." After that, the coxcomb-haired boy drew out his saber with his uninjured left hand. Water breathing, Form 11, Water Shadow Slash. Bai Yu had already noticed the movement behind him, and directly used water breathing, Form 11, Water Shadow Slash. The demon-slaying sword on Bai Yu's waist was unsheathed, and sheathed at a speed that could not be detected by the naked eye. Only a cold light flashed, followed by the sound of metal collision, and the saber in the coxcomb-headed boy's hand broke into two pieces. At this time, Bai Yu slowly turned around and looked at the coxcomb-headed boy again, saying lightly, "Didn't your master teach you to be polite to others? Not to mention that she is an underage little sister, my future woman. Breaking your bones is just to make you remember. If you still want it with your other hand, let it go. Otherwise, next time it won't be a weapon that only cuts you." The coxcomb-headed boy was completely shocked by Bai Yu. He didn't see Bai Yu turn around at all, and the attack had already landed on his sword. What kind of realm is Bai Yu in front of him? After personally experiencing Bai Yu's strength, the coxcomb-haired boy completely lost his temper. "I'll remember you. One day, I will definitely defeat you. Just wait. My name is Fushiguro Zuanaya." The coxcomb-haired boy, Fushiguro Zuanaya, regarded Bai Yu as his target to defeat in the future. Chapter 56, Welcome to come to me to teach you how to be a good person. Seeing that he had become the mountain that Fushiguro Zuanaya had to climb on his way to growth, Bai Yu smiled faintly and then said, "It's a good thing to have this belief, but it's impossible to defeat me in this life. My name is Bai Yu. You are always welcome to come to me to teach you how to be a man." When the other teenagers around heard Bai Yu's words, they had only one thought in their hearts. That is, one word, crazy, crazy to the bone. Now, in addition to admitting that Bai Yu's own strength is strong, they have to admit that Bai Yu's mouth skills are also strong. If a person with poor self-esteem says something to Bai Yu, it is estimated that the whole life will live under Bai Yu's shadow. However, fortunately, Fushiguro Zuanaya's self-esteem is still good, and he was not affected by Bai Yu. On the contrary, because of Bai Yu's words, he became more convinced of his determination and said, "I will definitely do it." "Have you finished what you want to say?" Who's his brother interrupted at this time. After saying that, he looked at Bai Yu and Fushiguro Zuanaya. Seeing that the two stopped talking, he pulled down the red cloth used to cover the table and continued, "Then, please choose your own, Tamasteel." Bai Yu didn't care much about choosing Tamasteel. Because he now has a demon slaying sword, the Nichiren sword seems dispensable in Bai Yu's eyes. Tanjiro, come and choose your own, Tamasteel. Bai Yu called Tanjiro over as soon as possible, and then Tanjiro came over with Agatsuma, Zenitsu and Mira to Shinji. The teenagers around were waiting for Bai Yu and others to finish their selections. Bai Yu was the boss in their eyes at this time. The boss didn't choose, so the little ones naturally didn't dare to go forward to grab it. Senior Bai Yu, you should choose first. Out of respect for Bai Yu, Tanjiro still wanted Bai Yu to choose first. Bai Yu stretched out his hand and picked one at random, and then Tanjiro began to choose his own, Tamasteel. Compared with Bai Yu, Tanjiro's selection was much more serious and careful. Agatsuma Zenitsu, who was standing by, kept staring at Yubuayasha Kikiko as if he had some plan. As he watched, Agatsuma Zenitsu came to Bai Yu and then whispered to Bai Yu, "Senior Bai Yu, aren't you afraid that yours is also a boy? Do you want me to help you verify it?" Hearing this, Bai Yu directly gave Agatsuma Zenitsu a fried chestnut and then said lightly, "Zenitsu, don't bother with this. If you want to verify it, go and verify the black-haired little sister you just confessed to." Agatsuma Zenitsu covered his head that was hit by Bai Yu and then glanced at Yubuayasha Kikiko's brother. The more he looked at him, the more Agatsuma Zenitsu felt that he was a girl, not a boy. Alright, better go find other girls. Agatsuma Zenitsu finally chose to give up after a fierce struggle. After Bai Yu and others finished their selection, it was the turn of the boys to choose, but some of the boys did not make any movements, but stood quietly aside, as if they were not interested in the Sunblade. "Why don't you choose?" Whose brother couldn't help but be a little confused and asked those boys who didn't want to choose the Tamasteel. "Well, we are too weak. We are not qualified to have the Sunblade. If it weren't for Senior Bai Yu, we would have died in the hands of the ghost." A representative among them spoke up. Chapter 57 Bai Yu's routine. After this selection, this group of teenagers had a deep understanding of their own strength, so they did not think of fishing in troubled waters, because if they did so, the next time they met the demon, it would be their death. Perhaps in order to survive, or perhaps because they really felt that they were not qualified, these teenagers chose to refuse to join the Demon Slayer Corps at this moment. Kiko's brother looked at them, and after a little thought, he said, "In this case, if you think your strength is not enough, then join the Hidden Department." Faced with a shortage of personnel in the Demon Slayer Corps, Kiko's brother still chose to accept these teenagers who thought they were not strong enough to pass the selection, but survived because of Bai Yu. Hearing this, the young representative asked, "What is a Hidden Department?" The Hidden Department is a department specifically responsible for the logistics support of the Demon Slayer Corps. In addition to miscellaneous tasks, the main task is to clean up the battlefield, which is much safer than killing demon. At this time, Yubuayasha Kikiko answered. Hearing that it was the department responsible for logistics, the teenagers were relieved one by one. The teenager representative looked at the others and saw that most of them nodded, so he said, "Well, we will join the Hidden Department, which can be regarded as a contribution to the cause of killing demons." In this way, this group of people transferred to the Hidden Department. With the encouragement of these people, the teenagers who wanted to get the Nichiren sword gradually calmed down. After a struggle of thought, some teenagers regretted it and clamored to join the Hidden Department. Seeing this, Zenitsu Agatsuma also wanted to join the Hidden Department, but was stopped by Bai Yu. If Zenitsu Agatsuma joined the development of this world would seriously deviate from the original trajectory, and Zenitsu Agatsuma's life might also be completely changed because of this decision. "Zenitsu, you can't join the Hidden Department. The Demon Slayer Corps is your destination. Your grandfather must have great expectations of you. Don't let your grandfather down." Bai Yu held down Zenitsu Agatsuma, who wanted to join the fun. "Senior Bai Yu, I'm so weak, it's safer to join the Hidden. After all, I still want to get married." Agatsuma Zenitsu also found an excuse to shirk. Although Agatsuma Zenitsu didn't know why Bai Yu would stop his choice, Agatsuma Zenitsu, who was very cowardly in his heart, still didn't like to be with death all day long. I was going to introduce Tanjiro's sister to you, but since you don't want to join the Demon Slayer Corps, I think it's better to forget it. Bai Yu took out Nezuko to seduce Agatsuma Zenitsu at this time, and said, Bai Yu gave Agatsuma Zenitsu an expression that you know. Tanjiro saw that Bai Yu was going to introduce Nezuko to Agatsuma Zenitsu, and he was a little confused. Now Nezuko is a ghost. Is there going to be a love story between a human and a ghost? I don't know how Agatsuma Zenitsu will behave after seeing that his sister is a ghost. Tanjiro's sister is a first-class beauty. In this case, you and her are not destined to be together. Bai Yu said with some regret. Facing Bai Yu's temptation, Agatsuma Zenitsu immediately began to fantasize happily, showing a silly smile in his fantasy. When Bai Yu saw the changes in Agatsuma Zenitsu, he knew that this guy had fallen for it. Just like in the anime, he was not immune to beauty. Chapter 58 Return Home. Tanjiro saw Zenitsu Agatsuma's silly look like Zubaiji marrying a wife, and his heart was full of helplessness. Even if his sister is a human, can she really be happy with this guy? Senior Bai Yu, let's make a deal. If I join the Demon Slayer Corps, you will introduce Tanjiro's sister to me, and you are not allowed to regret it. Zenitsu Agatsuma changed his mind again under the temptation of Tanjiro's sister. Don't worry. Bai Yu promised. And because Murata Shinji had his own obsession, and he also wanted to be with Bai Yu and Tanjiro, he did not choose to transfer to Hidden. Finally, after the recounting by Kiko Yubuayashiki and her brother, the number of people transferred to the Hidden department reached 2/3, and the remaining 1/3 always chose to stay in the Demon Slayer Corps. Those teenagers who changed their choices midway also returned the Tama Steel. Half an hour later, the selection of the Demon Slayer Corps officially ended, and the teenagers gathered at Fujiki Mountain gradually dispersed. Just when Bai Yu was about to leave, Yubuayashiki Kiko took the initiative to come to Bai Yu, and then under the gaze of Tanjiro, Agatsuma Zenitsu and Murata Shinji, Yubuayashiki Kiko hugged Bai Yu and said, remember the promise you made to me. Seeing this, Bai Yu showed a happy smile. He didn't expect that the system really had such magic that it really made this girl fall in love with him. Bai Yu touched Yubuayashiki Kiko's smooth face and said, no joke. From now on, you are my Bai Yu's woman. Wait obediently for the day when I marry you. Then goodbye. Yubuayashiki Kiko didn't say any more nonsense. After saying goodbye to Bai Yu, she returned to her brother. Senior Bai Yu, please teach me the secret of picking up girls. Agatsuma Zenitsu was extremely envious and hugged Bai Yu's thigh again. After watching Kiko leave, Bai Yu looked at Zenitsu Agatsuma who was hugging his thigh, and then said coldly, Zenitsu, if you don't let go, I won't introduce Tanjiro's sister to you. Sure enough, as Bai Yu said this, Zenitsu Agatsuma immediately let go of Bai Yu. After that, Bai Yu, Tanjiro, Zenitsu Agatsuma and Shinji Murata said goodbye to each other and separated. Bai Yu and Tanjiro were going to return to Sajiri Mountain to tell Yurakoda Kisakonji the good news. After that, the two would rest in the wooden house for a few days and wait for the swordsmith to deliver the specially made Nichiren sword. When Bai Yu and Tanjiro returned to Sajiri Mountain, it was already night. When Bai Yu and Tanjiro appeared in front of the cabin, where they had lived for 2 years, the two heard the sound of the cabin door being pushed open, and then Tanjiro's sister Nezuko came out. Ah Nezuko, are you awake? Tanjiro was the first to shout out, unable to suppress his excitement and joy. Nezuko looked in the direction of Tanjiro and Bai Yu after hearing the sound. After looking at them for a while, Nezuko ran towards Tanjiro, and Tanjiro also ran towards Nezuko. Because he was too excited, Tanjiro fell to the ground. After running a few meters, Nezuko hugged him after Tanjiro fell. The brother and sister hugged each other, and Tanjiro's excitement was out of control, so he burst into tears. Why did you fall asleep suddenly? And you haven't woken up yet? I thought you were going to die. Tanjiro's emotions, which had been suppressed for 2 years, completely broke out in front of Nezuko at this moment. Bai Yu stood there and watched this scene of deep brother-sister love quietly, and Yurakoda Kisakonji, who came back after picking up firewood, happened to see this scene. After looking at Bai Yu for a few seconds, Yurakoda Kisakonji threw down the firewood in his hand, walked towards Tanjiro and Nezuko, and then hugged the brother and sister together. Chapter 59 Conversation between Master and Disciple. I'm back, it's good. I'm back. Yurakoda Kisakonji murmured. Shiraha and Tanjiro were able to come back together, and the tragedy of Santo did not happen to Shiraha, and the knot in Yurakoda Kisakonji's heart was completely untied. Among all of Yurakoda Kisakonji's disciples, in addition to Tomioka Giyu, Shiraha and Tanjiro became the second and third people to survive the selection. Because almost all disciples did not survive the end of the selection, Yurakoda Kisakonji felt in his heart that it was because he did not teach them well, so he actually lived in self-blame. Now the return of Shiraha and Tanjiro has become the key for Yurakoda Kisakonji to open his shackles. After Tanjiro vented the emotions accumulated in his heart, Shiraha and Tanjiro took a bath and changed into clean clothes. Yurakoda Kisakonji prepared dinner for Shiraha and Tanjiro, or Tanjiro's favorite hot pot with added ingredients. As for Nezuko, she was like a few months old baby, quietly staying aside. During dinner, Yurakoda Kisakonji asked Shiraha and Tanjiro what happened on Fujiki Mountain. Tanjiro looked at Shiraha, who nodded to Tanjiro, and gave the right to speak to Tanjiro, while he quietly enjoyed the food. After knowing Shiraha's wishes, Tanjiro told Yurakoda Kisakonji what Shiraha did on Fujiki Mountain. Upon hearing this, Yurakoda Kisakonji looked at Bai Yu with a serious look. After a long silence, he angrily questioned Bai Yu. Bai Yu, have you forgotten what I told you? Bai Yu, who felt that Yurakoda Kisakonji was a little angry, stopped what he was doing, then looked at Yurakoda Kisakonji and said, Master, I haven't forgotten what you said, but I'm not him, so I will never die in the selection. Don't forget, I promised you that I will live 100 years longer than you, and I'm still waiting to hold my great-grandson. When the time comes, I will definitely bring my son, grandson, and great-grandson to sweep your grave and worship you. Listening to Bai Yu's words, Yurakoda Kisakonji wanted to scold, but couldn't bear to. Bai Yu was not only the most talented apprentice, but also the most talkative apprentice. It was because of this that Yurakoda Kisakonji thought Bai Yu was very likable. Tanjiro was also amused by Bai Yu's words and immediately laughed. For Tanjiro, he didn't think as far ahead as Bai Yu did. However, seeing what Bai Yu said, Tanjiro, who was also a disciple of Yurakoda Kisakonji, also echoed, Master, I will also bring my son, grandson and great-grandson, and then go to sweep your grave with senior Bai Yu. Yurakoda Kisakonji was helpless with an unconcealable joy, and finally he had to smile and said, You two little stinky boys, you just know how to talk nonsense. Old man, I met a ghost who knew you on Fujiki Mountain, and that ghost seemed to have a deep grudge against you. I think those brothers and sisters who didn't come back before were killed by this ghost, and it seemed to identify their identities through the disaster eliminating mask you gave us. Bai Yu mentioned the matter of the hand ghost to Yurakoda Kisakonji at this time. Well, that ghost was a deformed ghost with an abnormally large body and arms all over its body. The Nichiren sword you gave me, Master, broke when I cut its neck. Tanjiro also told Yurakoda Kisakonji with lingering fear. Hearing this, Yurakoda Kisakonji was also a little surprised and astonished. A deformed ghost knew him? Chapter 60 The Knife Comes. I think this ghost should have lived in Fujiki Mountain for a long time and gradually became stronger by eating batches of people who came to participate in the selection. Bai Yu said his analysis again. Yurakoda Kisakonji did not make any answer immediately, but pondered for a long time before guessing. Maybe it is a ghost I caught when I was young. But I don't know why that ghost can live so long, because the ghosts imprisoned in Fujiki Mountain, in order to prevent them from eating too many people and becoming too powerful, the Demon Slayer Corps will clean up Fujiki Mountain every 5 years, and then imprison a new batch of ghosts in Fujiki Mountain. Maybe that guy deliberately hid himself in order to seek revenge on me one day. After saying that, Yurakoda Kisakonji sighed. After listening to Yurakoda Kisakonji's story, Bai Yu was not surprised, because the situation was similar to what he guessed. After sighing, Yurakoda Kisakonji picked up the cup and drank a sip of hot tea. After a moment's pause, he continued to look at Bai Yu and said, however, this year is exactly the 5th year. Since you have killed all the ghosts in Fujikiyama, you have saved the Demon Slayer Corps a lot of trouble. Bai Yu, Tanjiro, although you have passed the final selection of the Demon Slayer Corps, you must not be blindly confident. Because as I said just now, the ghosts that Fujikiyama uses to select the Demon Slayer Corps are not too strong. And the ghosts you will face in the future will be much stronger than those on Fujikiyama. These ghosts are different from those on Fujikiyama. They may also use blood demon arts similar to sorcery. You must be more careful when fighting them. Hearing this, Tanjiro suddenly interrupted. Well, I think Nezuko is different from other ghosts. Is it because of this blood demon art? Yurakoda Kisakonji immediately denied Tanjiro and said, that's not the case. Your sister's condition should not be a blood demon art. According to my guess, Nezuko chose to rely on sleep to recover her physical strength in order not to eat human flesh and blood. Hearing Yurakoda Kisakonji's words, Tanjiro showed a little joy in his heart. It seemed that he was happy for the choice made by his sister. I'm full. Tanjiro, I'll leave the hygiene after the meal to you. Bai Yu put down the bowl and chopsticks and said contentedly. Tanjiro's face was full of helplessness, but he couldn't refuse. 15 days later in the early morning of Sagiri Mountain, a man carrying a long box wrapped in cloth on his back walked on the mountain road. The man was wearing a brown kimono with a sun pattern and a bamboo hat on his head. There were many wind chimes hanging on the edge of the bamboo hat. With the breeze blowing, the wind chimes made a pleasant sound. The man walked slowly in Sagiri Mountain and finally came to the cabin where Bai Yu and Tanjiro were. Yurakoda Kisakonji, who was meditating and resting in the room, had already heard the sound of the wind chimes, so he said to Tanjiro, Tanjiro, a guest is coming, go and greet him. Guest? Tanjiro was stunned, and then Bai Yu said, the sword is coming. These three simple words made Tanjiro understand immediately, so he got up and went outside the wooden house to greet him. Outside the wooden house, Tanjiro did see the man who came to deliver the sword. Looking at the mysterious man in front of him, Tanjiro didn't know how to start for a moment. Chapter 61, Swordsmith's Tomb. That Tanjiro had just said two words when the man in front of him took the initiative to introduce himself. My name is Katsuzuka, and I forged and brought the swords of Shiraha and Tanjiro Kamado. Hearing this, Tanjiro bowed to Katsuzuka, and then said, that Tanjiro Kamado is me. Shiraha is my senior brother. Please come in. But Katsuzuka sat down with his back to Tanjiro, and then took out the long box on his back, as if he was going to take out the things in the box, and said, this is the Nichiren sword, the sword I forged. Seeing that the other party did not intend to enter the house, Tanjiro was a little helpless, and had to continue, well, please come in first, I'll make you a cup of tea. Katsuzuka still had no intention of entering the house, and continued to mutter to himself, the raw materials for the Nichiren sword can be mined on the mountain closest to the sun. Use gorilla scollet iron sand, and gorilla scollet ore, and then you can create iron that absorbs sunlight. Really? In order to avoid an awkward atmosphere, Tanjiro had to respond to Katsuzuka's words. After all, Sunshine Mountain is a mountain where the sun shines all day long. At this time, Katsuzuka stood up and pointed at the sun in the distance. Yurakoda Kisakonji in the wooden house complained helplessly, this man is still as unresponsive as ever. Suddenly, Katsuzuka turned around and put his face in front of Tanjiro. Looking at the ugly mask on Katsuzuka's face, Tanjiro was startled and took a step back. Aren't you the son of Hizuo? This is really auspicious. Katsuzuka looked at Tanjiro through the mask and said in surprise, no, I'm the son of Tanjiro and Aoi. Tanjiro quickly denied and explained, that's not what I meant. Katsuzuka pointed at Tanjiro's hair and continued, your hair and eyes are red. Families working in fire-related jobs will be happy if they give birth to such a child, because it is auspicious. After that, Katsuzuka poked Tanjiro's face with his finger. Tanjiro understood this, and could only answer awkwardly, is that so? I didn't know. It seems that your sword might turn red, right? Yurakodaki, Katsuzuka said, and called to the house. Yurakoda Kisakonji in the house responded in a deep voice. After that, Katsuzuka took the forged Nichiren sword into the wooden house, and Tanjiro hurriedly followed. After Katsuzuka rented the wooden house, he sat down next to Yurakoda Kisakonji, and Tanjiro sat back next to Shiraha, and then began to make tea for Katsuzuka. Katsuzuka placed the Nichiren sword in front of Shiraha and Tanjiro, and then Katsuzuka looked at Shiraha, and said, "What a rare hair color. There are actually two colors, although there is only a little bit of blue." At this time, Tanjiro handed the brewed tea to Katsuzuka and said, "Mr. Katsuzuka, please have some tea." As for Shiraha's hair, after the demonization was activated, Shiraha's black hair completely turned into milky white with the passage of time. After 2 years of training in the narrow fog mountain, perhaps because the body has completely mastered the use of water breathing, the ends of Bai Yu's hair began to have blue. As for why there is such a change, Bai Yu can't explain it clearly. However, the rare hair color does make Bai Yu look more unique. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, Two-Colored Sunblade. After drinking tea, Katsuzuka couldn't wait to see what color Bai Yu and Tanjiro's Nichiren swords would turn into. "Hurry up and take a look. Your names are engraved on the scabbards. See which sword is yours," Katsuzuka urged, waving his palm. Hearing this, Tanjiro couldn't wait to take the Nichiren sword engraved with his name in his hand. Bai Yu, who owned the Demon Slayer sword, was not excited about this, but out of respect for the swordsmith Katsuzuka, Bai Yu still took his Nichiren sword. The Nichiren sword is also known as the color-changing sword, which will change color according to the owner. Katsuzuka continued. Hearing this, Tanjiro couldn't help but pull out his Nichiren sword, and then Tanjiro carefully looked at the blade. After a few seconds, the golden blade of the Nichiren sword in Tanjiro's hand gradually turned black from the end of the blade. The black color spread all the way to the entire blade, and Tanjiro couldn't help but feel very magical. "Black." Katsuzuka couldn't help but yelled, with a hint of dissatisfaction in his tone, and his whole body couldn't help shaking. "Black." Yurakoda Kisakonji acted very calmly and murmured. Seeing Katsuzuka so nervous, Tanjiro couldn't help but get nervous too, and then asked, "Hey, black is not good. Is it unlucky?" At this time, Yurakoda Kisakonji explained to Tanjiro, "No, it's not. It's just that black is not common." Katsuzuka couldn't help but yelled madly, "I thought I could see a bright red blade. Damn it." After yelling, Katsuzuka jumped up, hugged Tanjiro, and then locked Tanjiro with a lock technique. Tanjiro didn't dare to move, and could only yell, "It hurts. It hurts, Mr. Katsuzuka. Please calm down. How old are you? You're still like a child." Hearing this, Katsuzuka was not embarrassed at all, and answered very seriously, 37. Bai Yu ignored them, and curiously pulled out his Nichiren sword. Bai Yu was also curious about the color of his Nichiren sword. As Bai Yu pulled the Nichiren sword out of the scabbard, a few seconds later, Bai Yu's blade began to change color. Bai Yu's blade appeared in two colors, aqua blue and dark green. The two colors did not appear evenly, and collided with each other. Finally, under the mutual squeezing of the dark green and sky blue colors, the sky blue part was squeezed into a wave shape on the blade, and the other side of the blade was covered with dark green. Two colors. Yurakoda Kisakonji, who was sitting next to him, was shocked when he saw the color of Bai Yu's Nichiren sword. When Katsuzuka heard what Yurakoda Kisakonji said, he immediately turned his attention to Bai Yu's Nichiren sword. After seeing the two-color Nichiren blade of Bai Yu, Katsuzuka let go of Tanjiro at once, and then quickly came to Bai Yu, and carefully examined Bai Yu's two-color blade from a close distance. It actually has two colors. What's going on? Katsuzuka was a little confused. "Please let me see the sword." Katsuzuka couldn't help but get excited, so he wanted to take the Nichiren blade from Bai Yu. Bai Yu had no objection, and took the initiative to hand over the Nichiren blade. At this time, Yurakoda Kisakonji couldn't help but come over and study Bai Yu's two-color Nichiren blade with Katsuzuka. Chapter 63 Discussions about the two-colored sunblade. Tanjiro saw that Yurakoda Kisakonji was unusually interested, so he couldn't help but moved closer and asked, "Master, Mr. Katsuzuka, is Senior Bayu's two-color blade very special?" "It's not because it's special or not, but because two-color blades have never existed before," Yurakoda Kisakonji said to Tanjiro. Bai Yu heard what Yurakoda Kisakonji said, and then he understood why they were so shocked. It turned out that his two-color Nichiren sword was unique. What's the difference between this two-color Nichiren sword? Is it just beautiful? Bai Yu couldn't help asking himself in his heart. It's simply the best. These two colors are so harmonious and there is no conflict at all. It's simply a stroke of genius. Katsuzuka gave a very high evaluation to Bai Yu's two-color Nichiren sword, and the way Katsuzuka looked at the Nichiren sword was like looking at a very beautiful woman. Since the two-color Nichiren sword is unique, how is it different from an ordinary Nichiren sword? Bai Yu brought this up at this time. As soon as Bai Yu's question was raised, Yurakoda Kisakonji and Tetsutsuka were immediately stumped. They had never used the two-color Nichiren sword, and the two-color Nichiren sword had never appeared before, let alone any records of the predecessors, so no one knew what the difference was. Perhaps you will know after you use it yourself. Yurakoda Kisakonji gave a more reasonable answer. Tetsutsuka also nodded in affirmation. After all, the color is produced according to the owner. Since Bai Yu's Nichiren sword has two colors, it should be related to Bai Yu himself. According to my speculation, I think the sky blue part, that looks like water splashes, should be related to Bai Yu's learning of water breathing, because your sword is also sky blue. As for the green color that suddenly appeared, I can't guess. Tetsutsuka said his analysis. Bai Yu and Yurakoda Kisakonji nodded in agreement. After Tetsutsuka finished speaking, he handed Bai Yu's two-color Nichiren sword back. Bai Yu also took the Nichiren sword back in his hand and put it into the scabbard. In fact, Bai Yu had already had his own guess about the sudden dark green color. The appearance of this second color might be related to the breathing of wood, because the color of wood is green. Then I also learned the breathing of water. Why is the sword not sky blue, but black? Tanjiro asked again in confusion. After Tanjiro asked this, Tetsutsuka and Yurakoda Kisakonji could not give a reasonable answer, and the two could only make a speculative answer. Maybe you haven't mastered the essence of breathing of water, Tetsutsuka said without any mercy. Maybe it has something to do with your personality. Yurakoda Kisakonji guessed from another direction. When Tanjiro heard Tetsutsuka's words, he felt as if he was stabbed by a knife in his heart. He studied so hard, but he was said to have not learned the essence. And Yurakoda Kisakonji's words made Tanjiro feel a lot better. Compared with the answers of the two, Tanjiro was more willing to believe his master. Perhaps it was because of his own personality that the sun wheel sword was black. Just as everyone was discussing, two crows flew into the wooden house. Shiraha. Tanjiro Kamado. The crows that flew in were the crows used by the Demon Slayer Corps to send messages. As soon as they flew into the wooden house, the two crows called out the names of Shiraha and Tanjiro. Chapter 64 The Final Farewell. Shiraha. Tanjiro Kamado. I will convey the order of the Demon Slayer Corps to you. Tanjiro was slightly surprised to hear the crow speak human language. Shiraha, Yurakoda Kisakonji and Katsuzuka were very calm and did not show any surprise. Please go to the town in the northwest. The girl there is disappearing. After investigation, it is related to the ghost. Your task is to find the ghost hiding there and defeat it. Shiraha, Tanjiro Kamado. Please be careful, this is your mission as a demon hunter. After delivering the task instructions, the two crows flew out of the wooden house. After receiving the task from the Demon Slayer Corps, Shiraha and Tanjiro rested for a day and then changed into the uniforms of the Demon Slayer Corps the next morning. Shiraha put on a blue robe with the water pattern on the uniform, while Tanjiro put on a black and green plaid robe. Shiraha was wearing the robe that Yurakoda Kisakonji prepared for Shiraha. Perhaps he regarded Shiraha as his own inheritance. Tanjiro was wearing the clothes his mother had made for him before she died. In fact, Tanjiro also had a blue robe with the same water pattern as Shiraha, but Tanjiro preferred to wear clothes with memories of his mother. Before leaving, Yurakoda Kisakonji called Shiraha and Tanjiro to him and prepared to make a final statement. Shiraha, Tanjiro, before starting the mission of the Demon Slayer Corps, I have something I want to explain. Regarding the Black Blade, it is rumored that a swordsman who cannot make a name for himself is a Black Blade. This may be related to your personality, so don't be affected by your personality at critical moments. Hearing this, Tanjiro did not have any negative emotions. Tanjiro did not care much about whether he could make a name for himself or not. What Tanjiro cared about was whether Nezuko could become a human again. Master, although I don't know what will happen to me in the Demon Slayer Corps, I will definitely work with Senior Shiraha to turn Nezuko back into a human. Tanjiro replied to Urakodaki Sakonji. After hearing what Tanjiro said, Bai Yu looked at Nezuko, who was hiding in the quilt and peeking at him and Tanjiro. Hearing this, Urakodaki Sakonji also had confidence in Bai Yu and Tanjiro. Yes, I believe in you too. Bai Yu, your talent is unquestionable, so you must be careful and cautious in making decisions, because your decision may affect Tanjiro's life or death. Urakodaki Sakonji did not forget to remind Bai Yu. Bai Yu nodded, knowing that his existence and choices were affecting the development of this world at all times. Finally, take this. Urakodaki Sakonji said, and pushed a small wooden box beside him in front of Tanjiro. This is a box for carrying your sister during the day. It is made of mist spruce, a very light wood. The surface of mist spruce is also treated with rock paint, which greatly improves the sealing and strength. Thank you very much, Master. Tanjiro bowed to Urakodaki Sakonji in gratitude, and then picked up the mist spruce wooden box. After picking up the mist spruce wooden box, Tanjiro was shocked by the weight of the box. It's so light. It's really light. Tanjiro exclaimed. After that, Tanjiro came to Nezuko with the mist spruce wooden box and motioned Nezuko to get into the wooden box. The obedient Nezuko, like a caterpillar, crawled into the wooden box. Let's go, Shiraha-senpai. After doing this, Tanjiro said to Shiraha. Chapter 65, Northwest Town. There is one more thing. Maybe it's a clue to turn your sister into a human. More than 1,000 years ago, the first ghost was born. As the ancestor of ghosts, its blood has the magical power to turn people into ghosts. So your sister turning into a ghost may be related to it, and your family was probably killed by it. Maybe that guy knows a way to turn ghosts back into humans. Hearing what Urakodaki Sakonji said, Bai Yu knew that the ghost he was talking about was actually the king of ghosts, Muzan Kibutsuji. When Urakodaki Sakonji said this, Tanjiro couldn't help but interrupt. It's been more than 1,000 years, and it's not dead yet. Then where is it? As the ancestor of ghosts, how could its whereabouts be exposed so easily? Urakodaki Sakonji raised his voice, as if he was dissatisfied with Tanjiro's ignorant question. In fact, the birth of the Demon Slayer Corps is also related to it, and the ultimate goal of the Demon Slayer Corps is to completely wipe it out. So for more than 1,000 years, demon hunters have been looking for its traces. That time, Giyu was chasing its traces all the way, and then he ran into you, Nezuko, and Bai Yu. Remember, the name of this demon is Muzan Kibutsuji. After listening to the final explanation of Sakonji Urakodaki, Bai Yu and Tanjiro really embarked on a new journey, heading towards a town in the northwest direction, where the mission was mentioned by the eagle. Bai Yu knew that after this separation, the two would never see Sakonji Urakodaki again. After a day and a night of trekking, Bai Yu and Tanjiro finally saw a town in the distance from the mountainside. Tanjiro stood on the edge of a mountainside, pointed to the town located on the flat land below the mountain, and said to Bai Yu, Senior Bai Yu, the town in the northwest direction should be referring to that place. It should be. Bai Yu was not very experienced in judging directions, so his answer was not very certain. After that, Bai Yu and Tanjiro did not stay for too long, and went down the mountain all the way to the flat ground. Then, the two continued to move forward along a muddy road on both sides of the field, and finally they came to one end of the river, and the town was opposite the river. There was a small pier on the edge of the river, and there were many ships parked near the pier, and a lot of goods were piled on the pier. As Tanjiro was going out for the first time, he looked around curiously. It was the first time that Tanjiro had seen a town of this scale. After all, Tanjiro grew up in the mountains. To put it bluntly, he was a country bumpkin with little experience. Bai Yu did not find it strange. After all, Bai Yu had lived in a modern metropolis, and naturally he had seen more than Tanjiro. Just like that, while looking at the town, Bai Yu and Tanjiro walked onto the wooden bridge and came to the other end of the river. Bai Yu and Tanjiro continued to walk along the streets of the town, looking at the shops selling all kinds of things on both sides of the street, and listening to the men and women standing on the street talking to each other. The atmosphere seemed so lively. Senior Bai Yu, how do you plan to find the ghost hiding in the town? Tanjiro couldn't help but ask Bai Yu. Hearing this, Bai Yu stopped moving forward and looked at a man walking like a zombie. At this time, it seemed that someone on both sides of the street knew this man, and there was a discussion among the crowd. Chapter 66, Finding Ghosts. Look, it's Kazumi. He looks so pitiful, so haggard. It seems that he became like this because his fiancée Satoko suddenly disappeared when she was with him. Alas, I don't know what's going on. Recently, there are always girls disappearing inexplicably every night in this town. I'm fed up with it. Do you think there will be another one tonight? If this goes on, I'm going to move out of here. Bai Yu listened to the discussions around him and asked Tanjiro, did you hear what those people said? Hearing this, Tanjiro nodded. Although he didn't listen carefully to the gossip, he still knew the general content of their conversation. We have a clue. Go ask this zombie guy. After Bai Yu finished speaking, Tanjiro chased after the man named Kazumi. Mr. Kazumi. As Tanjiro called out, Kazumi stopped and turned around a little stiffly. Bai Yu also walked in front of Kazumi. Kazumi looked at Bai Yu and Tanjiro, who were wearing some unique clothes, and didn't understand why Bai Yu and Tanjiro called him. I want to ask you something. Is it convenient? Well, what is it? If you want to find out something, I suggest you go to the mayor. Kazumi replied. I want to ask, where did the girl who was with you suddenly disappear? Is it convenient to take us there? Bai Yu directly said what he wanted to ask at this time. Hearing Bai Yu ask this, Kazumi couldn't help but feel heartache, so he asked back, why are you asking this? We can help you find the girl. Bai Yu's words hit Kazumi's soft spot. Hearing Bai Yu's words, Kazumi's heart trembled violently. This answer gave him no reason to refuse at all. Although he felt that Bai Yu's words were a bit far-fetched, in the current situation, he could only hope in Bai Yu and Tanjiro, and try his best. Okay, follow me. After that, Kazumi began to lead Bai Yu and Tanjiro. The women on both sides of the street saw Kazumi leaving with two strange young men, and they couldn't help but talk about it again. Are those two little guys telling the truth? They actually said they would help Kazumi find Satoko. Who knows? Maybe they want to take Kazumi to a deserted place and rob him of his money. Didn't you see the knife on their waist? Kazumi ignored these discussions. He didn't want to argue with these women who only talk nonsense. Even if Bai Yu and Tanjiro really just wanted to rob him of his money, Kazumi didn't care anymore. If that was the case, Kazumi even thought about letting Bai Yu and Tanjiro kill him, since he didn't want to live anymore. With all kinds of messy thoughts, Kazumi still took Bai Yu and Tanjiro to the place where his fiancée Satoko disappeared. This is it. Satoko suddenly disappeared in this alley, although you may not believe it. Kazumi stopped and said to Bai Yu and Tanjiro, since I asked you to bring us here, I naturally won't doubt what you said. Bai Yu replied calmly, Mr. Kazumi, we believe what you said. Tanjiro also replied to Kazumi. Chapter 67 Use your nose. Tanjiro looked around and then asked Bai Yu, Senior Bai Yu, how do you think the ghost took people away? Tanjiro thought Bai Yu would give him an answer, but he didn't expect that Bai Yu would just answer with 3 words, I don't know. Then how do we find the ghost? Tanjiro couldn't help but continue to ask. Because Tanjiro regarded Bai Yu as a decision maker of the matter, every time Tanjiro would subconsciously hand the problem to Bai Yu and then follow Bai Yu's ideas. Bai Yu also noticed this and couldn't help but say, you are not much stupider than me. When you encounter a problem, think about it yourself first and don't wait for others to give answers to everything. I know. Senior Bai Yu. Tanjiro immediately remembered Bai Yu's teachings in his heart. Kazumi was listening to the conversation between Bai Yu and Tanjiro and couldn't help but interrupt. Were you talking about ghosts just now? Why? Do you know ghosts too? Or have you seen them? Bai Yu asked back after hearing what Kazumi said. That's not the case. Kazumi waved his hand and denied, but I've only heard some rumors about ghosts. Do you think Rika was captured by ghosts? Hearing this, Bai Yu and Tanjiro both nodded. Doesn't that thing exist? Are you scaring people? Kazumi said with some disbelief. Wait until we find it out, and you'll see it. Bai Yu didn't want to argue with Kazumi about whether ghosts exist, so he ended the topic. Tanjiro, now it's your turn to show off. Bai Yu immediately turned to Tanjiro and said. Hearing this, Tanjiro was completely confused. How should he show off? Use your nose to find the smell of the ghost, follow the scent, and you should be able to find that guy. Bai Yu continued to explain to Tanjiro. At this moment, Tanjiro completely understood that his nose was extremely sensitive to smells, and he could identify and remember all kinds of smells. Suddenly, Tanjiro became a little annoyed, wondering why he had forgotten his expertise. Really? Tanjiro, who suddenly realized, immediately used his nose to smell every corner of the alley. Kazumi found it a bit strange to see Tanjiro like this. Bai Yu quietly waited for Tanjiro to finish checking this place to see if Tanjiro could make any new discoveries. Tanjiro sniffed carefully in the alley for a few minutes, then returned to Bai Yu and said, Senior Bai Yu, I did find the scent of the ghost here, but the scent is very weak and erratic. Obviously the ghost has not been here for a long time. Then follow the direction of the scent and find it all the way. This may be hard for you. Bai Yu told Tanjiro about his plan. Hearing this, Tanjiro didn't care at all and said, it's okay. The most important thing is to find the ghost. After that, Tanjiro followed the direction of the residual smell and sniffed all the way. You can come with us. Bai Yu said lightly to Kazumi. Kazumi didn't have any objections, so he followed Tanjiro, who was sniffing everywhere on the ground, on the house, and on the wall. Tanjiro sniffed all the way from the alley to the street. Because of Tanjiro's weird behavior, he attracted the attention of many passers-by. Chapter 68 appeared. Why is this kid sniffing around like a puppy? I don't know whose kid he is. He's really embarrassing the adults at home. Passers-by on the street were whispering about Tanjiro, but Tanjiro was not affected by the talk, because in Tanjiro's perception, there was only one perception left, that is, the smell of the ghost. Bai Yu didn't care about the talk of Tanjiro by passers-by, but Bai Yu heard several young women talking about him. That white-haired little brother is so handsome, and has such a good temperament. If I weren't married, I would go up and marry him now. Yumi, she's still a child. It's too much for you to be so old and eat tender grass. What's wrong? I was also a beauty when I was young. I'm definitely worthy of that white-haired little brother. When Tanjiro smelled it, he smelled the orange-red sunset after sunset, shining on the whole town, making the town like a fairyland. Bai Yu didn't expect Tanjiro to be so persistent, and smelled it for most of the day. During the process, Tanjiro almost walked through half of the town. Bai Yu and Kazumi also accompanied Tanjiro for such a long time. Fortunately, Kazumi's perseverance was not bad, and he didn't complain during the journey. At this time, Tanjiro stopped and turned to Bai Yu and said, Senior Bai Yu, the smell near here is thicker than all the places we have been to before. I guess the ghost finally stayed in this area. Bai Yu nodded and then asked Tanjiro, in this case, do you want to take a break? Senior Bai Yu, after the sunset, it will be dark soon. We don't have time to rest. We must focus on patrolling the nearby area, because the ghost may come out at any time at night. Tanjiro didn't mean to rest, and said to Bai Yu very seriously. Bai Yu didn't force it, but looked at Kazumi. Kazumi is just an ordinary person, so he must consider Kazumi's feelings. That, I'm fine. Are you really the Demon Slayer Corps? Does the Demon Slayer Corps really exist? Kazumi said to Bai Yu and Tanjiro. Facing Kazumi's question, Bai Yu nodded without saying anything more. Soon the sun set, and the sky became completely dark. The street lights were also lit up within the specified time. Bai Yu, led by Tanjiro, quickly patrolled the area. Because it was uncertain where the ghost would appear, this was the simplest and most effective way. Suddenly, Tanjiro's face changed suddenly, and then he shouted, "Senior Bai Yu, the smell has become stronger. It has appeared." As soon as the voice fell, Tanjiro ran wildly towards the place, where the smell suddenly became stronger. Bai Yu did not delay at all and quickly followed. Tanjiro was running on the ground, while Bai Yu took a few steps, and turned over, and jumped onto the roadside shop, looking down at Tanjiro's route from the shop. The two of them went up and down like martial arts masters in the rivers and lakes. Kazumi did not expect Bai Yu and Tanjiro to react so quickly, and be so skilled, and he could not help but be a little dumbfounded. Kazumi, who was a little slow, could only barely follow behind Bai Yu and Tanjiro and chase desperately. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Water Ghost. As Tanjiro chased towards the place where the smell became stronger, he soon chased into an alley. This alley was not the one where he and his fiancée disappeared, but an alley in a different place. Tanjiro then stopped in the middle of the alley, while Bai Yu stood steadily on the wall behind Tanjiro. "It's here," Tanjiro thought to himself, and at the same time his body instinctively made a gesture of drawing his sword, and then Tanjiro pulled his Nichiren sword out of the scabbard. Bai Yu still stood quietly on the wall, with no intention of taking action. Tanjiro looked around, but did not see anything unusual. Just when Tanjiro wanted to ask Bai Yu's previous teachings echoed in Tanjiro's mind. So Tanjiro gave up the idea of asking Bai Yu, and tried to think hard on his own. "Smell. Just find the smell," Tanjiro muttered to himself, and at the same time closed his eyes, using only his nose as his only sense. "It's here. Underground," Tanjiro shouted, then his eyes suddenly opened, and then Tanjiro thrust his Nichiren sword into the ground under his feet. Suddenly, black water splashed on the ground, as if Tanjiro had burst a water pipe. Then, a pool of water appeared on the ground, and part of a woman's kimono floated out of the water. Tanjiro's face changed drastically when he saw this, and he immediately reached out to scoop her up. After Tanjiro's palm touched her, Tanjiro realized that this guy was a woman. Tanjiro immediately wanted to pull her up, but found that there was something holding the woman under the water. Tanjiro bit the Nichiren sword on his mouth, then reached into the water with both hands, and hugged the woman completely. Finally, Tanjiro bent over, and jumped into the air with all his strength, and finally rescued the woman from the puddle of water on the ground. Under the action of gravity, Tanjiro fell back to the ground again. The woman that Tanjiro was holding was already unconscious, and in the black water, a hand floated out of the water, holding a piece of clothing that had been torn off the woman in the palm of the hand. This piece of clothing was pulled off by Tanjiro. Then, in the black water on the ground, a ghost wearing tight mesh clothes, and with a pair of red eyes emerged from the black water, and there were 3 horns on the forehead of the ghost. A ghost with blood demon arts. Tanjiro was secretly surprised when he saw the ghost with only half of its body exposed on the ground. He didn't expect to meet it on his first mission. At this time, the ghost with half of its body exposed angrily made a grinding sound at Tanjiro. At the same time, the arm that was scratched by Tanjiro just now gradually healed. At this time, Kazumi, who arrived late, also saw the half-exposed water ghost and immediately showed a shocked expression, asking himself, "Is that guy the ghost?" At this time, the water ghost suddenly completely sank into the black water. With the disappearance of the water ghost, the black water on the ground also disappeared without a trace, leaving no water stains on the ground. "Mr. Kazumi, this girl is in your care. Senior Bai Yu and I are going to eradicate this ghost and return peace to the town." Tanjiro took back the Nichiren sword in his mouth and then said to Kazumi, who came over. Chapter 70 Tanjiro's battle alone. Kazumi took the girl from Tanjiro's hand in a daze. At this time, Bai Yu said to Tanjiro, "Tanjiro, this ghost is left to you alone." Tanjiro didn't understand Bai Yu's intention, so he asked, "Senior Bai Yu, don't you take action?" Bai Yu smiled and replied, "If I take action, you can only watch the show. Just think of it as a test for you." Tanjiro, who had seen Bai Yu's strength in Fujiki Mountain, knew how terrifying Bai Yu was. It is impossible to grow under Bai Yu's protection. Tanjiro, who understood this, did not say anything more, but focused his attention on the battlefield. At this time, Tanjiro had no scruples, because he knew that, if Bai Yu was present, his life would definitely not be in danger. In order not to hinder Tanjiro, Kazumi also quickly stepped aside. Tanjiro stared at the alley with great concentration, analyzing the characteristics of the water ghost in his mind. Just when Tanjiro couldn't hold back, because he couldn't see the ghost, Tanjiro recalled his absolute advantage, his nose, absolute sensitivity to the breath. Immediately, Tanjiro began to capture the movements of the water ghost from the breath. Here it comes. Behind. The next moment, Tanjiro made a move and turned around to attack behind him. Water breathing, 5 form. Just when Tanjiro was about to draw his sword, 3 black water shadows suddenly appeared on the ground. 3 water ghosts with the same appearance, but different numbers of horns on their foreheads, emerged from the ground. There are actually 3. Tanjiro was very surprised, and the attack he was about to launch also stopped abruptly. At this time, Tanjiro couldn't help but look at Bai Yu, as if he was seeking Bai Yu's help, because of the change in the situation. Seeing Tanjiro looking at him, Bai Yu shook his head at Tanjiro, indicating that he would not take action. Seeing Bai Yu's statement, Tanjiro had to give up asking for help, then bent his knees, and pushed hard against the ground, and Tanjiro flew into the air. Calm down, since Senior Bai Yu didn't make a move, it means that I can handle it. Tanjiro said to himself in his heart. Water breathing, 8th form, Taketsubo. At this critical moment, Tanjiro made the choice to change his moves, and chopped down with Taketsubo. Suddenly, a large amount of water rhythm splashed under the slash of the blade. The arms of the 3 water ghosts were chopped off by water breathing, 8th form, Taketsubo. Damn it. Because of the change of moves in the middle, all the ghosts didn't hit the vital points. Tanjiro was a little annoyed that he didn't kill them with one blow. After the chopped arm fell to the ground, it was immediately swallowed by the black water that emerged from the ground. And the 3 water ghosts were temporarily submerged in the black water. 2 of these 3 ghosts are clones that split from the original body. The clones will greatly affect the individual strength of the ghosts, so apart from their advantage in numbers, they can't pose much threat to you at all. At this time, Bai Yu spoke to Tanjiro leisurely. Clones. No wonder the 3 auras are exactly the same. After hearing Bai Yu's words, Tanjiro was more certain of his previous guess. He's going after Mr. Kazumi. Tanjiro felt the violent fluctuations in the aura of the water ghost, and immediately shouted to Kazumi, Mr. Kazumi, get out of the way. After that, Tanjiro also rushed in the direction of Kazumi, and launched an offensive again. Water breathing, 2nd form, water wheel. Chapter 71 Bai Yu's cold question. Tanjiro turned over in the air and slashed, and the circular water blade swung out of the blade immediately slashed the water ghost who had just emerged. Perhaps because the water ghost's reaction and defense were too strong, Tanjiro's attack not only missed, but the blade only embedded 2 or 3 centimeters into the water ghost's shoulder. In this somewhat chaotic situation, Kazumi almost fell down in his hasty evasion, but fortunately he leaned against the wall of the alley. Tanjiro immediately pulled the Nichiren sword away from the water ghost, then jumped back to Kazumi to protect him, while being alert to the movement of the water ghost. You annoying guy, don't get in the way. If you delay any longer, the freshness of this woman will decrease. That woman is now 16 years old. If you don't eat it soon, the taste will get worse little by little. The water ghost shouted at Tanjiro in great dissatisfaction. At this time, another clone of the water ghost appeared behind Tanjiro, and that clone said, calm down, me. It doesn't matter if there is a night like this occasionally. Anyway, I have eaten many 16-year-old girls in this town. Every one of them is plump and very delicious. I'm satisfied. You are satisfied, but I'm not. No. I want to eat more. Another more aggressive clone of the water ghost yelled at that clone. Just when the water ghost was arguing with his clone, Kazumi mustered up the courage and asked them, you monster. Give me back the lining that you took away the night before yesterday. At this time, the third clone of the water ghost appeared on the tie leaves of the wall and made an extremely harsh grinding sound. Bai Yu, who was standing on the wall, suddenly looked a little ugly and then said very unhappily, "It's so noisy." After that, a cold light flashed in the dark night, and the head of the water ghost clone that could not speak and could only grind its teeth was cut off by Bai Yu's water breathing. Type 11, water shadow slash. The chopped off head of the water ghost clone rolled in front of Hisei, which scared Hisei immediately. The body and head of the water ghost clone whose head was cut off began to dissipate. Looking at the water ghost head dissipating on the ground, Hisei was shocked and said, "It's disappearing. What the hell is this thing?" Tanjiro didn't expect Bai Yu to suddenly take action to get rid of a water ghost clone, and he couldn't help but be shocked. Then Tanjiro looked at Bai Yu, as if asking Bai Yu why he suddenly took action again. "The sound made by that dumb guy is a bit annoying, so I'll send it to see God first," Bai Yu said to Tanjiro. Hearing this, Tanjiro also knew Bai Yu's temperament. He knew that Bai Yu had no ill will towards Nezuko, but was cold-blooded and ruthless towards other ghosts. In fact, Tanjiro did find the high-frequency sound of teeth rubbing annoying. "Asshole, you actually killed it." The extremely irritable water ghost clone couldn't help but yell at Bai Yu, who was standing on the wall. "Stop yelling. I only have 3 seconds to answer the question I asked you just now. Has the person been eaten by you, or has he been temporarily imprisoned?" Bai Yu was not afraid of the irritable water ghost clone at all and questioned it very coldly. Chapter 72 Nezuko's Kick. "I don't know who you are talking about. If there is that girl's hairpin among these collections, it has been eaten." At this time, another Karma water ghost clone said while pulling open the clothes on his chest, revealing the so-called collections in his clothes. After saying that, the water ghost clone laughed wantonly. He looked at the dazzling array of hairpins in the water ghost's clothes and soon saw the cheapest pink bow hairpin among these hairpins, but it made him very sad. Suddenly, his eyes were filled with tears of heartbreak. The accumulated tears flowed out of his eyes, down his face to his chin, and finally gathered into big tears and fell on the ground. Tanjiro looked at the many collections of water ghost. His face was also extremely ugly, and his heart was extremely angry. Coupled with that guy's wanton laughter, it further provoked Tanjiro's inner anger. "Let's work together to kill the annoying demon slayer core. That me." After the water ghost clone finished speaking, the two water ghosts were submerged in the black water together. Then, the two water ghosts attacked Tanjiro at the same time. The two water ghosts were very eye-catching. They did not go to Bai Yu's discomfort, but picked a target they thought was the easiest to attack. Bai Yu did not intend to help Tanjiro, but stood quietly on the wall and watched the situation change. Suddenly, a water ghost suddenly poked out from under Tanjiro's body, and one hand grabbed Tanjiro's head heavily. Tanjiro's reaction was not slow either. He suddenly jumped up a little, and the water ghost's ghost hand grabbed the wall heavily and immediately made a deep dent in the wall, and gravel splashed everywhere. While Tanjiro's legs were in the air, he turned his waist suddenly, then turned around and chopped off one of the water ghost's hands. The water ghost, whose hand was cut off, immediately retracted into the black water. Just as Tanjiro's attack landed, a pool of black water suddenly appeared on the wall, and another water ghost suddenly jumped out from the wall, stabbing Tanjiro's vitals with its sharp double knives. Not good. Tanjiro secretly cried out, and his brain controlled his body to dodge at the fastest speed. Tanjiro dodged with a somersault, and then landed on the ground again. As soon as Tanjiro's front feet touched the ground, the water ghost just appeared behind Tanjiro. The water ghost that attacked Tanjiro's back stabbed Tanjiro's back with its sharp palm. At this time, Tanjiro had just landed, and the sharp palm of the water ghost behind him was only a few centimeters away from Tanjiro's head. Just when Bai Yu put his hand on the hilt of the knife, the wooden box that Tanjiro was carrying suddenly opened, and a beautiful long leg suddenly stretched out from the box and kicked the water ghost on the head. The water ghost's head suddenly turned 360 degrees several times, and the body flew backwards under this huge inertia. They are really siblings. Bai Yu looked at the beautiful long legs sticking out of the wooden box and couldn't help but sigh. Tanjiro was also very surprised by Nezuko's kick. Tanjiro never thought that Nezuko would help him out at the critical moment. Chapter 73 Tanjiro is pulled into the black water. What's going on? Who are these guys? They're actually carrying a ghost. At this time, the other water ghost clone that was not kicked into a brain twister by Nezuko was also a little confused because it actually saw a ghost with a human and just saved that person's life. And Nezuko also got out of the mist spruce wooden box, glaring at the water ghost clone that she kicked away. And the water ghost, whose head was twisted by the kick, began to reverse its neck to its original shape under its own powerful self-healing power. Then this water ghost was submerged in the black water again and then appeared next to another water ghost. Nezuko looked at the two water ghosts on the opposite side who were half exposed and immediately felt hostile and rushed towards the two water ghosts. At this time, Bai Yu suddenly jumped down from the wall and stopped Nezuko. However, due to inertia, although Bai Yu stretched out his hand to stop Nezuko, Nezuko's chest still collided with Bai Yu's arm. You are a girl, so let your brother Tanjiro do the fighting, Bai Yu said to Nezuko. Nezuko didn't understand Bai Yu's words, but she didn't show any hostility to Bai Yu. She just wanted to fight with the water ghost. However, Bai Yu's arm was very strong, and he kept stopping Nezuko. One person and one ghost were pulling each other like this, and Bai Yu's hand kept touching Nezuko. Bai Yu naturally wouldn't let Nezuko fight with the ghost, because Nezuko's safety was directly related to himself. Just as Bai Yu and Nezuko were pulling like a couple quarreling, the two water ghosts had already submerged in the black water. Mr. Kazumi, be careful. Tanjiro immediately felt the smell of the water ghost under Kazumi's feet and immediately pushed Kazumi away. Kazumi was pushed back several steps by Tanjiro. In the end, because of his unstable body and the girl in his arms, Kazumi was pressed down to the ground by the girl. A pool of black water appeared quietly under Tanjiro's feet. Two ghost hands suddenly grabbed Tanjiro's ankles and pulled Tanjiro into the black water. Nezuko wanted to save Tanjiro, but this time she was completely held tightly by Bai Yu. Bai Yu locked his hands tightly on Nezuko's waist, and Bai Yu leaned into Nezuko's ear and said, Nezuko, calm down. Believe in your brother. He will definitely get rid of these ghosts. However, Nezuko did not intend to listen to Bai Yu and still wanted to jump into the black water. Seeing this, Bai Yu was a little helpless, so he had to say to himself, Nezuko, don't blame me now. Then, Bai Yu bit Nezuko's fair neck and sucked her blood. When Nezuko was bitten by Bai Yu, her whole body trembled, and the next second she froze in place, stopping any resistance. From Kazumi's perspective, the posture of Bai Yu and Nezuko hugging each other made him feel a little ambiguous. The way Bai Yu buried his head in Nezuko's neck made Kazumi feel that Bai Yu was kissing Nezuko's neck. Chapter 74 Battle in the Black Water. Nezuko, who had a little blood sucked by Bai Yu, suddenly became quiet. Seeing Nezuko calm down, Bai Yu loosened his mouth. The reason why Bai Yu would bite Nezuko is that sucking Nezuko's blood can instantly draw away a part of Nezuko's strength. Feeling the strength being drawn away, Nezuko naturally calmed down. Of course, Bai Yu would bite Nezuko, and the most important point is that Nezuko's blood can nourish the ghosts and gods in Bai Yu's body. Because the blood of ghosts can make ghosts and gods more powerful. Even if Bai Yu does not learn the breathing method, he can rely on sucking the blood of ghosts to enhance his own strength. However, Bai Yu's heart is not so perverted that he would suck the blood of ghosts when he sees them. Bai Yu still has to choose a target. For example, male ghosts are not the targets that Bai Yu considers unless it is a last resort. So even if Bai Yu has a need, Bai Yu's first choice is Nezuko. The reason for choosing Nezuko first is naturally because Nezuko is a beautiful woman, and she also looks more like a human being and does not make people feel disgusted. This may be because Nezuko has never eaten flesh and blood, so the degree of demonization is not high. In addition to Nezuko, as long as the female ghost is beautiful enough, it also meets Bai Yu's requirements for consumption. Tanjiro, who was dragged into the black water, was suddenly pulled to a very deep place by the ghost. At this critical moment, Tanjiro swung his sword to cut off the ghost hands that grabbed his feet, and the water ghost, with his hands cut off, immediately rushed out. Tanjiro wanted to swim up, but the water ghost did not give Tanjiro this opportunity, and suddenly a water ghost approached Tanjiro rapidly. In the water, the water ghost moved much faster. Tanjiro, who felt the crisis in his body, suddenly swung a knife in the direction of the danger. As a result, the water ghost made a very large turn in the water, and at the moment when Tanjiro's sun wheel sword was about to hit it, it suddenly turned to another direction. Can you still make this kind of angle in the water? In this kind of water without a foothold, most of the water breathing moves cannot be used. The only thing you can use is water breathing, line type. Through the fierce twisting of the upper and lower body, a strong whirlpool attack is created. Now I can only wait for them to get close again, before I have a chance to attack. As his body sank a little bit, Tanjiro was still calmly analyzing his situation. The two water ghosts were like two fish, flashing around Tanjiro, looking for an opportunity to attack him. You can't beat us in the water. Go to hell. At this moment, the two water ghosts rushed towards Tanjiro with the determination to kill. It appears. The floor line. Full concentration, water breathing, line type, twist the whirlpool. Tanjiro, who had also prepared for the ultimate move, immediately used the rotation of his upper and lower body to drive the sun wheel sword in both hands and swung it 360 degrees. As Tanjiro turned his waist and swung the Nichiren sword in his hand, a violent vortex tornado was generated around Tanjiro. The vortex tornado immediately sucked the water ghosts in, and the sharp water blades on the outermost layer tore the clothes of the two water ghosts into pieces. At the same time, the limbs of the two water ghosts were all cut off by the sharp water blades on the outer layer of the vortex tornado. Finally, the two water ghosts were sucked into the black water by the vortex tornado. Chapter 75 The Problem of Fear. As the vortex tornado disappeared in the black water, there were only the severed limbs of the water ghosts and the scraps of clothes torn from their clothes. A relatively intact piece of clothing scrap floated in front of Tanjiro. Tanjiro took a closer look and found that it was the hairpin collection of one of the water ghosts. Tanjiro immediately stuffed the scrap into his clothes and swam quickly to the ground. As soon as he got ashore, Tanjiro bumped into Nezuko, who was squatting by the black water waiting for Tanjiro to come up. Nezuko was knocked to the ground by Tanjiro, and her expression became aggrieved, looking at Tanjiro pitifully. Tanjiro immediately helped Nezuko up, and then comforted her. Nezuko, are you okay? I didn't know you would squat here. I'm so sorry. Where did you bump into? Is it hurt? As he said that, Tanjiro stroked Nezuko's head. With Tanjiro's comfort, Nezuko was no longer aggrieved, and then she rubbed her face on Tanjiro's palm. At this time, Tanjiro saw Bai Yu on the other side holding the Demon Slayer sword in one hand and the two color sun blade in the other hand, and the two swords were placed on the necks of the two water ghosts. Tanjiro then walked to Bai Yu's side, and then said to Bai Yu, "Senior Bai Yu, I'm still a little short." Hearing this, Bai Yu smiled at Tanjiro and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? You did a good job. Facing three ghosts who can use blood demon arts, you can still severely injure them, which is amazing. Even if I wasn't there, I guess you would have already controlled them by now. But I didn't kill them with one blow, like you did before." Tanjiro still felt that he was not as good as Bai Yu. Bai Yu also knew that Tanjiro was not as good as himself, but in order not to discourage him, Bai Yu said, "If you kill them underwater, we won't be able to ask about Musen Kibutsuji." With Bai Yu's words, Tanjiro felt a little better. "You have done a good job. You have to believe in yourself." Bai Yu continued. Tanjiro nodded and finally smiled. After letting Tanjiro regain his confidence, Bai Yu looked at the two water ghosts, who were severely injured by Tanjiro and only had a small part of their torso and a head left, and asked, "Now, I have something to ask you. Do you know Musen Kibutsuji?" As Bai Yu's voice fell, the expressions of the two water ghosts suddenly changed, and they gradually became afraid from the initial shock. The incomplete bodies couldn't help but tremble violently. After seeing their reactions, Bai Yu and Tanjiro couldn't help but feel strange. What happened? Is it possessed by evil spirits? Hurry up and tell them. Tanjiro could not help but yelled. I dare not say one of the water ghosts replied very fearfully. I will die, I will die, I will die, I can't say the other water ghost repeated these two sentences crazily. Tanjiro could not help but look at Bai Yu and then asked, Senior Bai Yu, what happened to them? Bai Yu shook his head and then guessed, I don't know, maybe Muzan Kibutsuji used blood demon art to restrict them. So they dare not say anything about Muzan Kibutsuji. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.